State reducer, one of my favorite patterns ever. I love this pattern. So this is actually incidentally, this is a common pattern in React Redux, or sorry, React Reason. Reason React, that's what it's called. Like all components have this concept of a state reducer. I discovered it, I didn't invent it, but I discovered it trying to solve a problem in Downshift where people needed to be able to control state, but in a simpler way than control props, which we'll learn about later. But a state reducer, if a render prop is responsible or enables users to control how things are rendered, a state reducer enables people to control how the logic works, how the state is managed. And so it actually has nothing to do with Redux. The only similarity is the fact that the API is for your reducer is a reducer-like function, state, and then your changes. But other than that, it's just reducer is a computer science topic, not Redux thing. So here's the problem that we're trying to solve. Let's pop open the state reducers example. So here, we've got this situation where I want to be able to control how many times somebody clicks. They can't click more than 4 times. If they do, I'll say, well, you clicked too much. I will disallow any more changes and until you say reset, and then I will let more happen. Okay? I try again. It's like, nope, you clicked too much. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to jump into the toggle and say, hey, based on my own state, I don't want you to update your state after this certain point, or like I want to control how you're updating your state. So the implementation of this is a little intrusive on how you implement the toggle component. You have to think more critically about how you're updating state, because now the internal state of your component is actually part of the API that you're providing, because you want people to be able to control how that state's being updated. So it kind of breaks encapsulation, like some of these things. But what it allows is a huge amount of flexibility from the user standpoint. So a little extra complication on the implementation side, allowing for an enormous amount of flexibility on the user side is a win for me, especially if that means the alternative would be even more complication on the implementation side anyway. So let's look at the code for how this is being used. It's a little bit bigger of a usage example. So this usage has some state, keeps track of how many times you're clicking. And we have an on-toggle handler, handle toggle, that will update the state, incrementing the times clicked. And then, yeah, just this handle reset, that doesn't really matter for your specific use cases here. And then the toggle state reducer. So this is the reducer function that people are going to be passing to you, and you need to call this before you actually set state. Okay, so toggle accepts that as a state reducer prop, and it's going to call the function with all of the state, the current state of the toggle, and then the proposed changes. So these are the things I'm updating the on state from true to false, and so like what this will look like is on is true when it's called. And so then inside of this state reducer, we're going to say, okay, if on my own state, if they've clicked more than or equal to 4 times, then I'll go ahead and let you, I'm going to let you finish, but first I want to make sure that the on state never changes from false. So feel free to update any other state that you have internally, but the on state should never change from false. It should always be false. And then your toggle component is going to continue the set state stuff, and it's going to use this to set the state instead. And then it'll, yeah, the on state will never change from false until this says it's okay to do that. So one tip is because this needs to have, like in our case right here, we don't actually need the state, but some toggle state reducers might need to reference some other pieces of state. So this is why it's a state reducer, is it accepts the full state object and the changes. So because it needs to have the current state of the toggle component, it you're going to need to call this function within a set state updater. So you'll say this.setState updater function, and within that function you'll call this state reducer so you can pass the full state shape or object. Okay, and all of those changes are going to need to happen right in here in a new function you'll create, and then you'll make some updates to existing code.